Hey everyone, welcome into the Sports in the Mitten podcast powered by Mr. Spots. My name is Thomas Bendit. I'm the co-host, and our other co-host is Adam. Adam, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Thomas. I'm doing well. It's a exciting day. I'm glad the weather's finally getting a little bit nice. So excited about that. Spring game this Saturday. So we'll have a lot to talk about in that regard. And then a little bit of Michigan basketball notes as well.
Yeah, it's
I,
been a
I want to
dramatic.
mention Miles Bridges as well because maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. We don't know.
Yeah,
But there is a lot to talk about.
it's been a dramatic day around Detroit sports and the college sports teams as well. Joe Louis closes last night. Palace is closing tonight, at least for NBA basketball. And the Tigers are going too. I was being tortured in work today. I work in downtown Detroit for my day job, and I was looking over in Comerica. The lights were turning on, and everybody was getting ready to go. And I'm like, oh, geez, such a nice day. Stuck
And
here.
you're stuck in the office, just
Yeah,
loving life. I guess that's like the perks of it's like the perks, but it's also like it's a tease because a lot of people who work downtown Detroit, during the summer you can hear the roar from Comerica and everything, but at the same time you're at your desk, you have to do grown-up things, professional things. You were at the baseball game, but I mean, at least you're
yeah,
close. At least you're
yeah.
close.
It is. It is nice for that, but yeah, today was one of those days. It's always the first sunny day that they have a home game on. It's always rough, but but nonetheless,
Well,
yeah,
well, hopefully, Thomas. Hopefully, you make it through. I mean, they did win, so you could take comfort in that. They did win
yeah.
two
So
to one.
good news there. Good news there. But yeah, so let's dive into this Michigan spring talk then.
Not sure if people have realized or not, but Rashawn Gary is going to have a mind. It's almost like, do you remember last year predicting? Jabril Peppers had the type of season I think everybody knew he was capable of having. He did all the things he was going to do, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be one of those type of years for Rashawn Gary where he becomes. I think he's already one of the top linemen in the Big Ten. He's just played behind, the top defensive line in the country. He's developed. He's gotten a lot smarter, a lot harder. I talked to Rashawn about that. I talked to Greg Madison about that. I'm expecting a monster year from Rashawn. He was the number one pick in their spring draft. So, I mean, that says a lot in terms of what his teammates think of him. And I mean, they've been saying this ever since last year. It's nothing new, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just now keep growing. Rashawn Gary is going to be a monster. I can't wait to see him Saturday because I think he's going to just show that. I mean, he's incredibly fast, strong. He's got NFL written all over him. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna be fantastic lineman. I think he's gonna have a big season, all Big Ten. I mean, I don't know, maybe he's an All American, who knows? But Rashawn, I'm excited to see. Wilton Spate was the number 2 pick, so I mean that says a lot, I think. And for those who have kind of doubted Wilton or maybe were unsure, thought that there was competition, maybe because on Twitter, on message boards, and conversations with friends,
Oh boy.
there's always it's a competition. Nothing's guaranteed. Look, it's guaranteed. Wilton Spate is the quarterback. He is the guy. He's the face of the program. So I don't think there's any debating that. Wilton Spate might even exceed some of the expectations I had for him. And I thought when he committed, I thought coming in, I was confident he's going to be a starting quarterback. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as program leader, face of the program, that's kind of new territory. But I think Wilton's proved it, throughout the way that he conducts himself with the media, the way that he plays. He's got a confidence about him. Everything is going well for him. And I think if you're a Michigan fan, you want to hear that, right? You want to hear that your quarterback is really confident, and he is next level. Sam Webb reported this last week. Confirms, what I thought, and I think what maybe some other people thought too. Wilton Speight is heads and tails, shoulders, knees, elbows, everything, chins, ahead of the competition. There is not going to be a battle for starter. I mean, there's going to be a battle for number 2, but Wilton is the guy. So with that said, I'm excited to see him play just because he didn't have the best Orange Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That Ohio State game, I thought he showed a lot of I was going to say, well, I might as well say it. It's balls. I mean, we could say balls. It's okay. Balls in that Ohio State game. Winning at Michigan State, I think he showed some too. He's a tough kid. Mm-hmm. He was injured. He wasn't 100% healthy last year. Not all the time. He said he feels great. I don't. And then thirdly, Kareem Walker.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk, I guess, more about freshmen, but I guess if I got to pick top 3 guys I want to see, it's Rashawn, Kareem. And Kareem Walker, everybody said, and the same thing from last year. The guy makes plays in practice. He's this, he's that, all the superlatives. So I think those are 3 guys that and obviously there's different tiers and breaking it down, but I think just on the surface, those are 3 guys that I'm going to be immediately watching.
Yeah. I think to start off with, this Wilton Speight criticism, I have no idea where it's coming from. It's laughable to me. And, well, I shouldn't say I have no idea where it's coming from, because this is the obvious. I mean, I know we've talked about this before, this whole, everybody always thinks the next thing is going to be better than what they have now. Oh, nothing can ever get worse. Nothing can ever stay the same. It's always, the next recruit is an All-American. Whoever was on your team, they're actually terrible. Fans will spend the whole summer talking up. Take for instance, I'm just totally arbitrarily choosing a name, but like Taco, for instance. All summer last year, Michigan fans would be, oh, Taco's going to be the best. He's going to be unstoppable. And then the minute he leaves to go to the NFL, graduates, he wasn't that good. The next guy's going to be the best.
Oh, I know.
Much better.
I hear you, man. And why?
I don't know what it is. I think it's just like the shiny new toy syndrome. You always think it's cool and exciting, but yeah, Wilton Speight's going to be the quarterback. He's going to be the quarterback easily. I don't think there's going to be a second of drama. I feel like to an extent this is a little bit like that the first year with Rudock, where there was a little drumming up of interest. We got a battle, but I remember I went to, I don't know if you remember this, but they had an open practice for the students at the time, and I still had an M card, so I snuck in and went. And it was so.
Won't tell anybody.
It was so obvious that Rudock was the number 1 quarterback that I left laughing at the idea that anyone was considering it a competition. And I feel like that's what this is like. Wilton Speight is head and shoulders, as he said, 15 other body parts ahead of anyone else. He's going to be the quarterback. And, I think if you're a Michigan fan, you want him to be the quarterback. He was productive last year. He was consistent. Obviously, he tailed off towards the end of the year, which, I mean, it's hard to rip him too much on that Ohio State game or the Florida State game. I mean, he was limited. He was injured. And then, two, both of those teams have really good defenses. A lot of quarterbacks struggled against those teams this year. And to me, the most impressive thing he had last year, despite a loss, was that Florida State game when he was just getting destroyed for the entire first half. I mean, that D-line was just killing him. And he finally just decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going to step up into these throws. I'm going to take the hits, and I'm just going to complete the passes. And, obviously they didn't come out on top, but I thought his second half was really impressive. And if he can play like that going forward, spells good news for Michigan. But things I'm looking forward to this weekend, as I said, I kind of already feel like we know what to expect out of Speight. But, Rashawn Gary, I mean, everyone's expecting he's going to be the best player on the team, at least on paper. So, I mean, you're obviously looking for him to have a dominant performance. And I'm really interested to see the depth on the defensive side of the ball. They've lost so many guys to the pros this year. And where is the depth going to come from? Is it from some of these early enrollees? Is it from some of the freshmen who didn't play much last year, some of the older guys finally getting a chance. Tyree Cannell pops to mind, guys like that. What are we going to see from that side? And on the offensive side, I mean, maybe this is the shiny new toy syndrome, but Donovan Peoples-Jones, I really am curious to see what he can do. The highest rated guy in the class, so obviously a lot of expectations for him.
Yeah, and Donovan, of course, for me too. And I remember hearing Wilton talk about, and that's important because that was something that a lot of people mentioned. And I'm not by any means comparing them head to head. People like Calvin Johnson, right? A lot of people marveled at his catch radius. Wilton was saying, the plays. Donovan is the kind of guy who can make sideline catch. Saying the radius, he covers a lot of ground. I mean, he's not the biggest receiver out there, but he's very athletic. I like him. I mean, he's not tiny either. I mean, he's what? He's 6'2", 195. I mean, he's not a runt by any means, but I mean, he's not. I mentioned Calvin. Size wise, he's not 6'5" and 200 or whatever Calvin was. What was Calvin? 240, something like that. Yeah, anyway, gigantic. Yeah, and when you mention the defensive side of the ball, guys, David Long's been mentioned, and I think David Long got mentioned last year actually, and then he got injured. So I think David Long has been there. Tyree, I think he's been there. I mean, he got in the mix a little bit too, but we might see Keith Washington. Keith's been mentioned, and I've been wondering about. It was kind of funny because I remember mentioning to a friend. I think. I don't know who it was. I was talking to somebody before the availability, and I mentioned, I'm like, I want to ask about Keith Washington. Like, where's Keith? I remember last time I heard about him, he in the parking lot outside of his house or something, and with Jim Harbaugh. Didn't he run in like socks or something, or barefoot, or I know it was impromptu. He just got off. He just said, "Hey, I'm going to go run a 40 for you," and he did it. And because I remember Harbaugh telling the story. So yeah, you're wondering about. And also, don't forget Lavert Hill. Mm-hmm. Lavert, and that was a big flip. Remember, he was committed to Penn State, and younger brother of Delano.
Yeah,
Lavert's been mentioned in there as well. So I think, yeah, you're losing Jordan Lewis, you're losing Channing Stribling and DeMonte Thomas. I haven't heard anything about Jeremy Clark lately. Last I knew, that's something Jim Harbaugh will be available for on Wednesday. So Clark, last I had heard, they were applying 6th year, and it sounded like that was going to happen. But
I think they had said it didn't happen, but that's what I had heard.
It has happened?
No, that he's not coming back. He's going to head out to the NFL and such. As far as I'm aware.
Where was I? So where was I on this? I'm talking about. I'm like, okay, without Jerry. I feel like I'm late to the party on this one. So without Jeremy Clark, yeah, you're gonna lose some experience. You're gonna lose a little bit of leadership, I guess. But in terms of talent, I do think there might be a drop off though. I mean, I'm not. Last year I thought 10-win team, no doubt in my mind. This year it's I think 8-9 wins. Depends on a couple different factors. I mean, last year there was an improved running game, right? Because the offensive line improved. What if, and this is in theory, that this offensive line doesn't experience any drop off? What if these guys are good? I mean, I'm not saying that they wouldn't be good, but you know what I mean? What if? Mm-hmm. What if? Just think about that. What if the run game gets going? That gives another dimension to an offense that isn't scary. Maybe Chris Evans, he gets a little bit of space. I mean, Devion had a couple big plays, but as in general, watching Michigan football, especially, past 5 years, with exception to Denard, and then we look at Fitz Toussaint, the last 1,000-yard rusher in 2011, I mean, blow you away, picked up some yards. But bottom line is nothing about Michigan's run game has really said, okay, wow, these guys can be scary. So let's say, for instance, the offensive line is at least serviceable, and then we see a guy like Kareem provide that big time threat on the run game. Chris is up 7 pounds. He went from, he said, 205 to 212, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're conditioning and stuff, that 5-7 pounds, it can make a difference. He said he feels stronger. Fast. Who knows? That's what I'm saying. The what if about the offensive line and the run game is what kind of interests me. And then we also have, there's not Jake Butt, okay, at tight end. Ian Bunting, I think, is the logical guy there. Maybe we see Nick Eubanks. I was excited about Devin transferred. He was more of a blocking kind of guy, although his first catch was a touchdown. But the receivers, there's a lot of what if on this team, as where last year it was what if, but it was based on a lot of what we already knew. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like you can pin it right now. Obviously, there are two groups on this team, position groups, that are obviously red flags. The first is the secondary, and you've talked, just because you're losing everyone. But we've talked about it. You mentioned guys like David Long, Lavert Hill, and Tyree Cannell, Khalid Hudson. There's plenty of guys there where I don't know if it's just me, but I feel pretty confident the secondary is going to at least be okay, especially considering that you have that D-line and those linebackers in front of them. I think, generally speaking, it's easier to hide the secondary than the second position group, which is the O-line. And, you mentioned the rushing issues Michigan's had recently. I know we've talked about it before on the podcast, but Michigan, if they're going to be a championship-level team, they got to be able to rush the ball at some point and not running up 300 yards against Rutgers or something. We're talking about key plays in big games. You want to talk about a couple games last year? If you could have ran the ball against Iowa, if you could have ran the ball against Ohio State, those would have been wins, without a doubt. You were up both those games. All you had to do was run out the clock at the end, and Michigan's line couldn't do it. They couldn't finish the job. Even to a certain extent, that Florida State game. You go back the year before. Do we even need to talk about that Michigan State game with that punt situation?
We could if you want to.
All they had to do was pick up one first down, and the game's over. And there's a lot of these games where the offensive line has cost them games. And until they can get over that hurdle to where they have a key first down they got to pick up in the third or fourth quarter, and they can lean on the line to get them, 5-6 yards when they need it. The program and the team is never going to be able to hit that next level. It's unfair to put all of those issues on this group, especially because a lot of them are so young and haven't played. But to me, that's the concern for Michigan, because Chris Evans, just look back to Michigan in 2013 when they had Gardner. I want to say, wasn't Fitz still on the team at that point? They had. Okay, was that his last year?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 2013, they had a few running backs, but that line was just a destructive mess, and it killed what probably, if they had an even mediocre line that year, they probably would have won 10, 11 games, I would think. And they ended up at 7-6 or something in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. And again, it's unfair to put all of that on this group, but we've seen you have to have a good line if you want to be a championship level team. And for Michigan, they need to figure out a way to at least come close to last year's level if they want to have a chance to contend with Penn State, Ohio State, and teams like that.
I feel like that the offensive line has trended in the right direction. And if you look at, and I remember back, Derek Green didn't turn out to be what people thought. But recruiting-wise, at least on paper with Derek, that people forgot that Devion was like a top 20 or top 15 running back in that same class. Everybody was focused on Derek Green, but Devion was a highly rated back as well. And then I think Drake Johnson. There was depth there. It's just, I guess we didn't see development from those guys and development from the offensive line.
And don't forget too, NFL star Thomas Rawls was on that team.
Well, that's who I could count on like a couple of hands, I think, and maybe my toes how many carries he had at Michigan. And again, I think people who listen to the podcast know that I know Thomas. Very proud of Thomas with the Seattle Seahawks. Unknown guy at Michigan, goes to Central, gets injured, goes undrafted, and then starts for the Seattle Seahawks. So I mean, who knows? Who knows what? That's a whole different conversation. That's a wild ride. But I'm very happy for Thomas. But what were we talking about here? I started thinking
offensive line trending.
Offensive line trending in the right direction. They do have guys who are good enough who can maybe take advantage of a little bit. Maybe the offensive line isn't all the way there. You know what I mean? It used to be, okay, maybe the running backs were middle of the road or above average recruiting-wise were, but the offensive line was down here, development-wise. And as the offensive line, I feel like we didn't see the progress from those other running backs. So then eventually the offensive line kind of superseded. And then I think what we saw 2015 a little bit, but certainly last year, I think we saw the running back group kind of catch up a little bit. But then we weigh here the loss of 3 starters on the offensive line, 3 all Big Ten guys, and Eric Magnuson, Kyle Kalis, and Ben Braden. And we don't know exactly what the line's going to look like. But you know what I mean? I feel like there's got to be some kind of happy medium here as I'm playing with my hands and hopefully demonstrating the ebbs and flows of the offensive line and running back group. So I do believe that there's enough talent there. I like Chris Evans. I really do. Mm-hmm. I want to see him.
Yeah, I mean,
what's the word for it? Easy tackle. Like there's a particular way to bring him down. I feel like he gets brought down at the hips a lot. I don't feel like he's got that strength to get out of a hip tackle. You know what I mean? Getting wrapped, because guys are, wrapping you up at the hips. That's what they're taught to do. I don't feel like Chris, at least not at the NCAA level, is strong enough yet. And maybe putting on those 7 pounds and further conditioning, maybe. But again, sight unseen, I'm ecstatic to see Kareem Walker, because I want to piece, right? That dominant. Are we going to see Michigan have a dominant running back? That's the missing piece. There's a good quarterback there. There's potential with the wide receivers. Maybe everything can catch up. Maybe that's, I don't know. Spring game. I guess, is going to show us what we need to see.
As I guess a final thought here, I kind of agree. I mean, this is my kind of theory, and I always say, like, wide receivers are really nice. Having great receivers is always a plus. No one's ever going to be like, oh man, I wish we had some terrible receivers out here.
Right.
But I would much rather have a quarterback. I feel like if you have a really good quarterback, he's going to find open guys, especially at the college level. They're going to get enough of those little passes over the middle and whatnot. But Michigan desperately needs a running game, a consistent running game. And, whether that's one guy, whether that's, a thunder lightning type of situation, whatever you want to talk about, 2, 3 guys, whatever. And I will continue to say this all off season, but it's going to be on that offensive line. If that offensive line can come anywhere close to last year, I think this team, and particularly the offense, is going to be really good. If not, things are going to get tricky, especially against Penn State and Ohio State with those D lines.
My final thought about the Michigan spring game and I'll run game, and because you mentioned the wide receiver thing, and then it's kind of, and I'm not comparing head to head at all, but Michigan State. Okay, yeah, they had the defense, 2013, 14, 15, really good defense. Okay, but let's look at what worked offensively. Didn't really have superstars at wide receivers, like you were saying. I mean, I feel like Michigan State's formula was Michigan State's always been able to run the ball. I mean, we can name off all kinds of running backs, and you mentioned Thunder and Lightning. The Cedric Irvin, or not Cedric Irvin rather, but His name is slipping by me right now. Who in the heck was that in the backfield with J.U. Colquitt? Javon Ringer. How am I forgetting Javon Ringer?
Okay.
So Javon and J.U. Colquitt, Thunder and Lightning. I mean, we've seen, in the years past, Michigan State kind of keeps a good stable of running backs, and I feel like Langford, he supplied some big play. That's kind of an element that Michigan's offense is missing. Whether they do it by committee, done, with a featured back, or a constant, consistent threat. Everybody knew, I think, playing Michigan State, like, hey, you have to – Michigan State can run the ball. You got to watch out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't have the superstar, 5-star running back, but, I mean, they got somebody that's back there that's going to get the job done. So, like I said, my final note on Michigan spring football, particularly running game, that's you want to see more of that threat. If it'll be a good thing though, if you see the running backs run all over the defense in the spring game, right? You don't want. That's another thing. It's kind of hard to gauge. It's 2s and 3s mixed up, and goes out there and dissects the. Is that a really good thing for him, or a negative for the Michigan defense? So, let's talk Michigan basketball. I know because a little bit of news today, I guess. DJ and Mo, guys that they're going to test the waters, but in a way, I am surprised that they both declared. I figured next year would be the year, but they must be getting some good intelligence and saying, hey, them and the mock drafts that I've looked at were predicted as first round picks, at least today. I'm sure we see some updated ones in the coming days. Maybe they are of them predicted as a first round pick. And if you look at, I feel like there's some pretty skilled big men, and it would be to their benefit to stay to where they can be, lottery pick potential, top 15, top 20 potential, because there's a lot of good, Jonathan Isaac, Florida State comes to mind, Lauri Markkanen from Arizona. I mean, what if we saw Mo kind of, I feel like everybody's going goo and gaga over, okay, they played well toward the end of the season. Let them play well for a whole year and develop. I mean, there's page, right? Turn the page. Next year, think of how good these guys can be. And I know the goal is get to the pros, and I don't know what DJ and Mo are thinking, but I think Michigan would be a very good team next year if they return. I think that they should return for development-wise because, like I said, these guys until the end of the year. I think people who follow Michigan basketball realize that this potential was there. Nobody was really talking about these guys, and now all of a sudden you're going to say, okay, let's start looking at their NBA futures. Let's look at them become as good a college player as they can before we talk about going to the NBA, and that's a whole other argument too in itself. But what do you think about just hearing them? No harm, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say 3 things. First, as a reminder to everyone, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe it's been 3 years now, the NBA changed the rules to where you can declare for the draft, you can be evaluated, you can work out, but you don't hire an agent and you can return to college. So The cutoff is May 24th, which is well over a month. We're talking like a month and a half that these guys are likely going to be in this limbo stage where they're declared, but they can still come back to school. And for a lot of people, the big thing is the combine. If you are not invited to the combine, they're coming back. It almost always happens. They're coming back. So that'll be the big indicator whether these guys get. Now, if they get invited, that doesn't mean they're going to stay in it. But just know if they don't get invited, they're going to come back. That's kind of how this works. Second thing is I am very, very pro declaring early. I always say this, if you can get the money, go get it. Because if somebody offered me $1 million to leave school early, I would be like, okay, where do I sign?
Right.
Please take me.
Yesterday.
Yeah, like I'll go back to school later. But the reason I say that is because you have to consider it in that if you're an intelligent player, who has a chance to make the pros, you have to think of it as I need to maximize how I can get this money. Right. And the reason I say that is because sometimes declaring early is not always the best way. And we talked about this when we were talking about the Pistons, whether they should tank or not, like a week or 2 weeks ago. But this is a really deep draft class. You can get down to the edge of that lottery, and every guy, you're like, wow, that guy could be a potential star down the road.
Yeah.
And you get
franchise guys.
Oh, yeah. And you can get down to the end of the first round, and you can still be like, oh, yeah, I could see that guy turning into a starter down the road. This is a really, really deep year for the draft. I mean, if you look, Juwan Evans, who plays for Oklahoma State, Michigan fans will remember him. They played him a couple weeks ago in the NCAA tournament. He was like a borderline lottery pick last year, and he's barely going to be in the first round this year. And that's not because he's gotten worse. That's because the field is much, much better. So the reason I went on this rant is to say that, Michigan's guys, if they're going to be projected in the second round, they can just wait a year and probably move up 10, 15 spots just by the nature of the game. I'm a little skeptical of these guys ending up as lottery picks, especially Wagner. I don't know if he has the raw physical attributes to do that, but I would say though.
Can you believe that there's somebody at my house?
That is unlucky.
Someone is seriously knocking on my door right now. They'll have to come back.
Yeah, bad timing. No, but I would just say that I think both of those guys can move up into the first round if they come back for another year. I anticipate that.
Go ahead and finish. I'll be right. The beauty of live streaming. I have to go attend to this.
I will just say that I am anticipating both of these guys are going to come back next year and enter next year's NBA draft, or at least if they're still viewed as highly at that point. It'll be interesting to sort it all out, but I don't see how this hurts either one of them. Get evaluated, work out with some good players, and again, they get to go to these team workouts, which is great experience. And the guys are going to tell them, they're going to give them reports as to what exactly they need to work on, and so on and so forth. But it'll be an interesting little evaluation here. So I'm interested to see how it all plays out. And I'm expecting some good news as far as Michigan fans are concerned in the upcoming weeks here for both DJ and Mo. And I think I'm excited, but I will say I don't think this hurts anyone either way down the lines. Just because you do get that free evaluation, and you get to work out with some great players. But I will say, though, I know you did bring up Bridges as well, as far as his decision, whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to go, so on and so forth. I think he's probably going to go pro. I just it'll be a very interesting. Oh, Adam, I still think you're muted on the thing, so I think you're going to have to unmute yourself real quick.
Okay, are we good there?
Yeah, right. We're good. Sorry. But yeah, I think Bridges is going to go pro. I feel like this is going to be an easy decision.
I don't see why you don't. And I mean, right now, I like the NBA Draft Net. I like their mocks and NBA Draft Express. I feel like they're fairly accurate for his. And right now, Miles is predicted as the 13 pick number 13 overall by NBA Draft Net, and he's at. Sorry here. I feel like that whole dog barking thing kind of threw off my game a little bit. Someone who lives down the street, he's like, "Hey, it's a nice day. I figured I'd just stop by." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm recording a podcast." It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I was nice. I was nicer than that. Miles, NBA Draft Express has him going number 11 to the Charlotte Hornets. So I mean, pick or right there. I think you have to go, but there are rumblings, and he does love college. But does he love college? I mean, if you love college, you could complete college, I guess. Is there the unfortunate circumstances of an injury? That kind of stuff. I think in the case of Miles Bridges, as much as Michigan State fans want to, I'm from the Flint area. I have a personal interest because I think it's great for the city, regardless of where they go. And this Flint basketball tradition is really romanticized, especially around here. Not just, okay, Flintstones at Michigan State. I mean, Kyle Kuzma, he's from Flint area. He's at Utah. He's predicted as an early second rounder. I mean, people really get behind these kids. They don't care what college they go to. There's Michigan fans that I know, and in the city of Flint, of Miles and want to see him do well. Mm-hmm. It's that Flint thing, it's that hometown kid. And with that being said, I would love to see Miles. I would love to see him back at Michigan State because I know that he does love college. But at the same time, I think Miles to be the best out of here. And I mean, Mo Pete had out of the the Flintstones of mid-late 90s, Mo Pete had the best NBA career out of all of them. And he had a pretty good NBA career. He wasn't a superstar. I mean, he was an all-star, I think, a couple times, but player for the Raptors. I think Miles Bridges has the potential to really be a superstar. I really do. I believe that. And whether one more year at college gets him there, I don't know. But if you're projected lottery, you got to go. And the difference is millions of dollars. I mean, and then some people say, okay, well, if he returns and then next year he's a top 5 pick and there's millions of dollars difference in there. Okay, I understand that. But the here and the now is he's projected. He's right there. If he's not in the lottery, 13, 14.
Yeah.
I get paid and want to finish your college degree, go ahead and do that. But I mean, you got to think of your basketball career, your professional career. How many opportunities are you going to have to make this kind of money in your life? And it's the same. It's not the same scenario as DJ and Mo because they're not obviously projected as high. Mm-hmm. When you're a guy like Miles, I feel like the money has to do most of the talking, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm underestimating his love for Michigan State and his love for his teammates in college. I mean, I know that it means something to him, but dollars would also mean something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the risk is not worth the potential reward because, I mean, the reward would be, okay, another year of the college life. Theoretically, I mean, if he came back, Michigan State is immediately the Big Ten favorites. They're going to be a Final Four favorite, a preseason top 5 team. But again, I mean, how many top 5 teams have we seen, suck it up and fail to win? I mean, look at Maryland 2 years ago. They were the unanimous Big Ten preseason favorites. They don't win the Big Ten. They don't even make it past the Sweet 16. Now, granted, I think Michigan State would be better than that Maryland team. But again, I mean, that's not a guaranteed thing. And then potentially moving up in the draft. But once you're already in the lottery, I mean, unless you have a shot at number 1, which if you're coming back as a sophomore, I'm sorry, your odds of getting to the number 1 pick are essentially 0. Some freshman's going to get it every year. But so, I mean, I don't think it's worth it when you weigh that with, potential injury and or, what if he underwhelms? What if he takes a step back and you're judged so much more harshly when you come back when you probably should have went pro, because now every play and every game is, okay, well, why isn't he dominating? Why isn't he scoring 30 points tonight? He only scored 25. That margin for error is so small when you come back. And I don't think it's worth it. I think if I'm him, I just head to the pros, thank Tom Izzo, thank Michigan State fans, and see what you can do at the next level.
You have to. And I know that Izzo hasn't made he doesn't like that one and done culture. But I mean, and a lot of when you start talking about recruiting and where does Tom Izzo lack? One and done kids don't want to play for people conversations. Maybe Miles can at least set some kind of example. You can be a high profile guy. You can go if you want to go be a one and done. I mean, I don't know. I feel like whatever Miles does is the right decision, obviously, because it's for him. But I feel like the whole way that he's conducted himself, you almost can't look at him as just a regular one and done. And maybe that's just my eyes because he is from Flint, the Flint area, at his old school. And I think I told you the story. I had heard about him playing basketball, and he would be eligible in a couple of years. I was the JV coach at Flint Southwestern baseball, and I was like, man, I want to get this kid. I mean, I heard he was an awesome athlete. Never played baseball. I'm like, man, I cannot wait to get this Miles Bridges kid. And then he moves and goes to Huntington Prep, which was the right move for him. There was a rumor that he was going to come back and play at Flint Carmen Ainsworth his senior year of high school. I obviously have some Flint bias here, but I think with Miles and the way that Tom Izzo has talked about the whole thing, it's really, I guess, bottom line, I feel like he'd be doing a favor to Tom Izzo and Michigan State by coming back. And does he feel? I don't feel like he owes them anything. I don't feel like Miles Bridges owes Michigan State anything. Miles wanted to go to Kentucky initially. I think Kentucky was his favorite before Michigan State really solidified itself. I mean, he's always liked Michigan State, but I believe he said that he was heavily considering Kentucky. So got him. The fact that he had an incredible season this year, and he did everything I think that was expected of. Put it this way, I feel like Michigan State fans, if Michigan State had made it to the Final Four, they wouldn't. There's people. Well, maybe he does need another year. They're thinking with their heart and their fandom rather than with facts. Miles Bridges does not need another year in college basketball. No, it would be a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
But athletically, he's there. I mean, he's the best Flintstone Izzo's ever had. He's the last. And I think that's what kind of makes Miles a little bit more special, especially people who have covered Michigan State basketball for a long time. Maybe they're not from Flint, but they understand the Flint connection. Flint. And then I cover Michigan State basketball and I'm from Flint. So I feel like I really understand that connection. So all that stuff comes into play. But Miles Bridges, my bottom line is Miles Bridges doesn't owe Michigan State anything, and go get the money.
Yeah. Total agreement here.
I feel like we've covered a lot of bases today, and I said that on purpose because I want to take real couple minutes excited about the summer baseball season, and not talking about the Detroit Tigers. It's my City League team. I want to say really excited and have this opportunity to say that we're going to win. We're going to win the Flint CBL, Thomas. It was special at the end of the summer about City League baseball championships, but no, I'm kidding. I am excited though. We recruit a lot. We've got some D2 guys, JUCO guys, all really good in-season college players. I'll be managing, and the idea was to recruit well enough so I wouldn't have to play, and it's going to be fun. Are you any rec league? Do you do a weekend warrior, anything like that?
No,
because you're going to have a whole summer of me talking about my baseball team. I'm just warning you. That's basically what I'm saying.
No. Unfortunately, I don't get to do any of that. I don't have time. Unfortunately, but yeah. Me, it's mainly just work, follow sports, and hopefully get outside here and enjoy some of this weather before it's too dark.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful day, and I want to thank everybody for listening today. You can check us out on sportsinthemitten.com. You can follow us on Twitter at we changed our handle, so it's no longer at SITM Big and Kid. It's Mitten Sports, and that's at Mitten Sports MI on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. On who to watch during the spring game. Thomas and I have already talked a little bit about that, so you guys have a heads up. I'll break down, kind of the top tier guys like I mentioned with Rashawn, Wilt, and kind of break down some position groups. on fanragsports.com most likely tomorrow. There'll be availability Tuesday and Thursday night, so I'll have some videos on my YouTube channel from that, and teleconference, as I mentioned earlier, Wednesday with Jim Harbaugh and other Big Ten coaches talking about spring football games. Coming up, FanRag Sports, and follow them on Twitter at FanRag_U.
And I'm Thomas Bendit. You can follow me on Twitter at TBendit. And you can check out my Big Ten hoops stuff at BT Powerhouse of SB Nation.
Thanks again for watching, listening, everybody. We'll have audio only if you prefer that on sportsinthemountain.com. So have a great evening, and we'll talk to you guys again later this week.